was going to record earlier, but they asked me to build some Legos with them. So this is going to be a little bit later tonight. Tonight we're going to be going over the current state of the dollar store industry and where that's going. It was only a few years ago that it was booming. Now it seems to be on the decline.
We have big problems at these dollar stores, everyone. Their stock prices are crashing. They're down 50%. And worst of all, the low-income customers that come to shop at these dollar stores, they're no longer coming. CEO of Dollar General, he just came out and said that a lot of their customers who make $35,000 or less, they can no longer afford to shop at these stores. People come to dollar stores because they can't afford to shop anywhere else, and yet they can no longer even afford to shop at a dollar store.
Now we're all going to have mixed feelings. Dollar General wasn't always a dollar store, right? Dollar General stopped selling items only for $1 decades ago. Its closest competitor, Dollar Tree, held on to the original dollar store philosophy for far longer before giving up just a couple of years ago. Therefore, today the dollar stores mostly evoke a sense of value, even though they have moved away from their original idea. So yeah, I don't think I ever went to a Dollar General when it was, so if it was decades, it would have been 1990-ish. I wish we had an exact year.
To a certain slightly uninformed expert, this Dollar General in Faith, South Dakota would seem an economic impossibility disproven only by its existence. Faith is a tiny place, a remote, no-stoplight prairie town of 367. It's got a couple of gas stations and a couple of inns and restaurants and an auto parts store.
Most people who haven't traveled the U.S. don't realize this, but there are small little pocket towns like this all over the U.S. Thousands and thousands, tens of thousands of them. Not only that, but a lot of them are defunct. They're dying towns. To be honest, it's very depressing to do road trips a lot of times because you can tell that a lot of these towns are on the decline. But it's a great place to get cheap real estate.
But what it doesn't have is a single nationwide brand. It doesn't have a single branch of any store, restaurant, or service that exists beyond the region around, except for Dollar General. But that doesn't explain the full extent of the anomaly, because Dollar General isn't just the only chain in Faith, it's the only chain in a 45-minute radius until one arrives at this Dairy Queen in the far larger 3,000-person tribal capital of Eagle Butte.
How I've always viewed these Dollar Generals as they're basically mini Walmarts where the towns aren't big enough to justify having Walmart come in. So this is like a micro mini Walmart.
367-person population just isn't typically enough to attract a nationwide brand. There's just not enough money in the area to make capturing it attractive, and yet somehow, Dollar General makes it work. Its next nearest location to the north is in a town of 1,200, to the east 1,100, and to the south and west 540 and 590 respectively. Walmart is also one of the most regular retailers in rural America, but they don't even come close to these numbers.
If you're wondering like I am, there are 4,610 Walmart stores in the United States, whereas Dollar General has 19,643 stores in the US. I guess they have some in Mexico as well.
Walmart revolutionized retail through its ability to turn a profit in small, remote communities like Kodiak. Its impact decimated the American Main Street, but Dollar General has taken that to a new extreme. Where Walmart entrenches itself in the thousands, Dollar General deals in the hundreds. This revolutionary retail concept starts on the inside. Total staff headcount at a given location typically sits between 6 and 10, and of those, just 2 or 3 might work at a given time. Given typical hourly rates and typical opening hours, that means Dollar General can spend as little as $300 to $400 a day staffing their lowest traffic stores.
I don't know if he's basing those numbers off of just typical average pay rates for people in the industry, but looking up here, we have the cashier sales $7.91 per hour on average. Ooh, that is brutal. That can't be right. Cashier sales. This is probably more accurate. Cashier 16, retail assistants 11, lead associates. These numbers seem to be way all over the place. Store director 120 per year on average, and then a CEO. That's actually not that much for a CEO of a chain that large. Dollar General employees rate their compensation and benefits package at 2.4 out of 5 stars. Yeah, I could see that for sure.
Then there's product offering complexity. A Walmart averages 140,000 unique products. They'll sell Coke in 10-count mini cans, 30-count mini cans, 12-count full-size cans, 24-count full-size cans, 12-count mini bottles, 6-count full-size bottles, 12-count full-size bottles, 1-count 2-liter bottles, 4-count 4-liter bottles, and then they'll offer all these sizes for Diet Coke, Coke Zero, Cherry Coke, and then they'll offer this same spread for every other soda brand and its variants, which is incredibly convenient.
The economy of scale that they get from having a large enough store makes Walmart just a better place to go for everyone, because it's like, I'm going to go to this place because I know they're going to have what I need, and I'm going to need lots of different things. So they have a competitive advantage by being larger. Dollar General also has a competitive advantage over a local mom and pop shop because they can negotiate prices with manufacturers of these items by ordering significantly more than, say, a mom and pop shop that's just going to say, oh, I just want one-offs of this. But they'd have to negotiate deals with each individual supplier, whereas Dollar General can go in and just negotiate deals for the thousands of stores that they have. And so when it comes to the free market, your local mom and pop shops are so disadvantaged in this modern economy that they will always lose. If a Walmart comes into town, there's no way for a mom and pop shop to compete and survive. It will not happen because of the basic economics. The bigger, larger chains have cost advantages that the mom and pop shops will never have.
More individual products require a more complex supply chain, more floor space, and added staffing dedicated to organization, which adds to cost for the retailer. Dollar General, meanwhile, keeps it simple. They offer just 10,000 unique products, but they do this primarily not by reducing how many product categories they sell, but rather the optionality within each category. Dollar General's competitive advantage is that they're the shop. They are the only game in town, and so they just need to offer one brand of laundry detergent, and that's the detergent people will get. This bestows enormous negotiating leverage. Manufacturers will bend to their whims in order to become the Dollar General detergent supplier, meaning they might be able to get a similar or even better deal from P&G on detergent pricing than even Walmart. That's what leads to products like this. Dollar General's $1 Tide brand detergent. To balance the retailer's need for a low-cost offering with their desire to maintain a premium name brand image, Procter & Gamble has gone out of their way to manufacture a $1 Tide detergent bottle. Now, Walmart actually sells this same product for less. Their 128 fluid ounce size works out to under 12 cents per load, almost half of Dollar General's 20 cents per, but Dollar General's target consumer is one who is severely cash-strapped. They cater to the class of consumers that might want to spend $10 on bulk detergent that will last for months, but chooses the $1 option regardless to keep enough cash on hand to pay rent before their next payday. So Dollar General actually charges more per load, and even better, their consumer will want to come back sooner than Walmart's to buy a refill, at which time they'll also buy whatever else they need, therefore extracting more revenue. But Dollar General's true strategic linchpin is the most anomalous aspect of its business model.
Location, location, location.
The retailer has turned what would be a weakness for others into the core of its strength. It starts with cost. Rent at this store in North Creek, New York is $118,000 a year, at this store in Sullivan, Maine, $103,000 a year, and at that Faith, South Dakota location, $106,000 a year. That works out to between $300 and $400 in rent per day, which, added to their $300 or $400 in daily staffing costs, underpins Dollar General's ability to run a store with under $1,000 of overhead per day. But low rent costs are far from the key that unlocks rural America. Rather, remoteness itself enables their remoteness. Take their location in Haven, Kansas. This is a town of 1,170 that simply does not have a grocery store. They have a gas station and a liquor store and a coffee shop and diner, but they don't have a grocery store. Dollar General is not a grocery store, but their locations do stock shelf-stable dry goods and frozen food, and some sell a limited supply of perishables. The closest dedicated grocery store is a full 10-minute drive away in the next town, and it's small, not one that could necessarily fulfill all of a person's needs. The closest supermarket is a full 22 minutes away in the city of Hutchinson, so what happens in practice when Dollar General enters a market like Haven is that rather than making that 10 or 22-minute trip, people shop out of the local Dollar General for regular day-to-day needs, then make less frequent trips to the distant grocery store for fresh and specialty items. For anyone, this would make grocery shopping more of a pain than it already is. Making things more difficult though, this gap of grocery stores is also home to the metro area's least mobile, as these census tracts contain, in the words of the USDA's Food Access Atlas, more than 100 households with no access to a vehicle and are more than a half-mile from the nearest supermarket. Unsurprisingly, this correlates closely with tracts that are low income, as all these areas have a poverty rate of over 20% or a median family income of less than 80% of the median income for the state or metro area. Put together, Atlanta residents with the least money and least mobility are the farthest from supermarkets.
This is what a lot of the country looks like. More than people realize.
Now, of course, it's not a simple coincidence that some of the poorest and least mobile populations of Atlanta are farthest from supermarkets. These, after all, are areas still grappling with the legacy of redlining in the past, and areas that some academics have identified as current instances of supermarket redlining. The process by which businesses intentionally keep their distance from such areas for reasons that vary from crime rate and purchasing power to zoning restrictions and unfavorable street layouts. But regardless of their reasons, supermarkets simply don't exist in a large portion of the Atlanta metro area, creating an urban food desert. The impact of a dollar store in a food desert isn't neutral to the health of a community, it's outright negative. Most American food deserts aren't so different from, of all places, Haven, Kansas. They have a dollar store, and they have, or until recently had, at least one grocery store that carries shelf-stable foods along with fresh produce and refrigerated meats and dairy products. The products that are lower margin for the business but lead to a more nutritious and diverse diet. Such stores have been harder and harder to come by, but many of America's tiniest towns have, against all odds, resisted the massive Albertsons and Kroger-fueled grocery industry consolidation. Too small to be attractive for the supermarket chains, and are home to some of the country's last independent grocers, right-sized to fit the communities they serve, barely hanging on as the brutal economics of America's monopolistic food supply system push them over the edge. But their perilous economics become all but impossible with the arrival of a neighboring dollar store. In Haven, Kansas, this store was Food Liner, which, after the opening of the Dollar General, saw its customer visits drop by nearly half, and after 3 years, saw its doors close for good. For any grocery store, it's typical for sales to drop by up to 30% when a dollar store is open nearby, as consumers head for canned soup, Frosted Flakes, Pop-Tarts, and the countless other shelf staples that are just a bit cheaper and a bit more convenient. This kills the grocery store that counts on such sales to justify carrying fresh produce, pushing them out of business.
Well, let's not forget the fact that all of these small towns have a liquor store that gets frequented. So you could save a lot of these stores, these local mom and pop shops, if you got rid of the local liquor stores and instead combined the liquor store sales, basically the liquor sales of the town, with the grocery store. There's a lot of complaints about food deserts, and yet every single one of these small towns has liquor stores. So when you're complaining that the health of Americans is being negatively impacted and it's going to raise our health insurance costs, but all you continue to do is collect revenue from these liquor stores and have them open at all times of day and just let people get addicted to pain medications and drink all day long, it really falls on deaf ears to me. It really does. If you want to talk about public health, alcohol is the number one issue. And I say this as somebody who is a drinker myself. Alcohol is the leading cause of morbidity and mortality, with harms related to both acute and chronic effects of alcohol contributing to about 5 million emergency department visits and about 178,000 deaths in the U.S. each year. On top of the health detriments, roughly 55% of domestic abuse perpetrators were drinking alcohol prior to assault.
Along with further drying out food deserts and tempting crime, dollar stores provide areas with only a few meager jobs. The lean labor model may work for dollar stores' profitability, but it doesn't do much for the surrounding community. To keep labor costs low, a dollar store will only employ 6 to 10 people, and they'll only be paid around minimum wage. Dollar General, for instance, pays 92% of its employees under $15 an hour. By themselves, these numbers are bad, but they get worse when considering the grocery store that it might have replaced. That independent grocer provides around 20 jobs. The dollar store, less than 10. That independent grocer's profits stay circulating within the local economy. Dollar store profits are whisked away to faraway investors.
So why can't these dollar stores be locally owned like franchises? I believe Ace Hardware is individually owned. Ace Hardware has over 5,000 stores around the world, with the majority of these stores independently owned and operated by local entrepreneurs. Yeah, see, this is what I like to see. Yeah, I'm a huge fan of Ace Hardware, and they get the advantages of being able to negotiate with the manufacturers of the products on behalf of the store owners. Ace stores comes in all sizes and shapes based on these individual neighborhoods. We have small urban stores, large rural stores, and everything in between. Yeah, it's great.
In 2018, the city of Tulsa passed an ordinance to limit new dollar stores and instead encourage full-service grocery stores. In the move's wake, 75 communities have blocked dollar store proposals, and 54 cities have enacted limits on dollar store development. Of course, these numbers are minor in comparison to the tens of thousands of dollar stores now spread across the US, but each case of grassroots pushback serves as a powerful rebuttal. That these communities, now marked by the neon signs signaling that the rest of the world has largely forgotten about them, are a problem, and enough of a problem to bring communities together to fight back. Fundamentally, Dollar General and its close equivalents are simply following the economic path of least resistance. They're outcompeting local businesses, and they're doing it fairly. But that path of least resistance leaves a trail of destruction that disadvantages individuals. That's because individuals' best interests can work against their best interests. People prefer having a dollar store and a grocery store and shopping at both, but in the process of doing what they prefer in the short term, they destroy that grocery store and create a scenario that is less desirable for themselves in the long term. So that's what government is for. It's an assembly of individuals into a collective that can solve these strange mismatches between two sets of best interests. The American Main Street is a fragile environment. It's already taken a beating as big box retailers built up across the country, but that battle was fought from a distance. The one thing Walmart couldn't compete with was the locational convenience of small town stores for small towns. Dollar General can, and it is. It's got a simple yet unbeatable business model. It's a black hole that sucks up variety and vitality and litters the American landscape with these perfectly destructive beige boxes.